Dear students, welcome to the class on ADIP. Today we will continue on Module 4. In today's class, we will see about the wavelet transforms in two dimensions, wavelet packets, image compression, and in image compression, the basics of the image compression we are going to see in today's class. Previously, we have seen the one-dimensional transform of the wavelet transforms. Now we will see the two-dimensional transforms. In two dimensions, a two-dimensional scaling function phi of xy and three two-dimensional wavelets, that is psi h x comma y, psi v x comma y and psi d x comma y are required. Each of them is the product of two one-dimensional functions. When we exclude the products that produce the one-dimensional results like phi of x and the psi of x, the four remaining products they are going to produce the separable scaling function. That is phi of xy, it is equal to phi of x and phi of y. Along with the separable scaling functions, it will also consist of the separable directionally sensitive wavelets. The wavelets are three, that is psi of h, psi of v and psi of d, where psi of h measures the variations along the horizontal direction, psi of v responds to the variations along the vertical direction, and psi of d corresponds to the variations along the diagonals. The directional sensitivity is a natural consequence of the separability. It does not decrease the computational complexity of the two-dimensional transform. When we have the two-dimensional scaling and wavelet functions, then the one-dimensional dWt to the two dimensions can be easily deducted. First, we are going to define the scaled and the translated basis functions, that is phi of jmn and the psi of jmn, where the index I indicates the directional wavelets and then the exponent I is a superscript, that is assuming the values h, v and d. The discrete wavelet transform of the size m, n will be given. The discrete wavelet transform of the image f of xy, which is of size m, n, can be given by the equations w of phi and the w of psi. So the w of phi, it is depending upon the f of xy and the phi of j naught m, n, and w of psi, it also depends upon the function f of xy and psi of j of mn. When we know the value of the w of phi and the w of psi, f of xy can be obtained by using the inverse discrete wavelet transformation, where the f of xy, it is equal to 1 by root of mn and the summation of w psi and the phi of j of mn plus the summation of w of psi and psi of I. Like the one-dimensional discrete wavelet transform, the two-dimensional also can be implemented by using the digital filters and the downsamplers. With separable two-dimensional scaling and the wavelet functions, we can consider the one-dimensional, the fast wavelet transform of the rows of f of xy, followed by one-dimensional fast wavelet transform of the resulting columns. This picture shows the two-dimensional fast wavelet transform, that is the analysis filter bank, and we can see here the w of phi, it is consisting of h of phi and the h of psi. We have the columns as well as the rows as well as the diagonals included here. So all these functions are going to make up the two-dimensional fast wavelet transform. This picture illustrates the decomposition of the function w of phi. So w of phi of j plus 1 is consisting of j as well as the horizontal, vertical and the diagonal. Whereas again the w of phi of j it will be consisting of W of j minus 1. So like this, here the figure shows the two-dimensional fast Fourier transforms decomposition. This picture illustrates the synthesis filter bank. That means the opposite of the first one, that is the analysis filter bank, where the combination of the diagonal, vertical, horizontal and the W of phi is giving rise to W of phi of j plus 1. So here we have the diagonal functions, the vertical functions, horizontal functions, all of them included to get the W of phi. And we can see here the functions are having the convolution. That means we are going to convolve the functions to get the final result. The figure A, what we have seen in the block diagram form, it is there. The filter bank of this figure can be iterated to produce a p-scale transform in which the scale of j will be equal to j minus 1 to j minus p. As in the one-dimensional case, the image f of xy, it is used as w of phi j of m comma n input. Convolving its rows with the h of phi and the h of psi and downsampling its columns, we will get the two sub-images whose horizontal resolutions are reduced by a factor of 2. The high pass or the detailed component characteristics, the image high frequency information with the vertical orientation. The low pass approximation component consists low frequency vertical information. So both the sub-images, they will be filtered column wise and downsampled to get the 4 quarter size output sub-images. These 4 quarter size output sub-images are W of psi, W of psi of H, W of psi of V and W psi of D. So these images which are shown in the middle of the figure, they are the inner products of f of xy, and the two-dimensional scaling and wavelet functions, they will be followed by downsampling by 2 in each dimension. 2 iterations of the filtering process, it is going to produce the 2-scale decomposition at the far right of the figure B. The figure C, it shows the synthesis filter bank, which is the opposite of the process what we have just described. So as can be expected, the reconstruction algorithm is similar to the one-dimensional case. At each iteration, the 4-scale J approximation and detailed subimages, they are unsampled and convolved with 2 one-dimensional filters, one operating on the subimages column and the other operating on the rows. Addition of the results, it is yielding the scale J plus 1 approximation, and the process will be repeated until the original image will be reconstructed. The fast wavelet transform, it is consisting of a function which will be the sum of scaling and wavelet functions whose bandwidths are logarithmically related. The low frequency content is represented by using the functions with narrow bandwidths, and the high frequency content is represented by using the functions with the wider bandwidths, opposites. So if you are going to look along the frequency axis of the time frequency plane, that is in the figure C, it is very obvious. Each horizontal strip of the constant height tiles, they are going to contain the basis functions for the single fast wavelet transform scale, and it is increasing logarithmically in height as you move up the frequency axis. If you want the greater control over the partition of the time frequency plane, the fast wavelet transform must be generalized to yield a more flexible decomposition, and this is called as the wavelet packet. The cost of this generalization is an increase in computational complexity from big O of m for the fast wavelet transform to the big O of m log 2 of m for a wavelet packet. Let us again consider the two-scale filter bank of the figure A. But we are going to imagine the decomposition as one binary tree. It will be having two partitions starting from the root. So in this figure you can see here the structure of the tree, how it is organized and how the links are connected to the FWT scaling and the wavelet coefficients. So here you can see the W of phi of Jn, it is equal to f of n, and it is partitioned as j minus 1 and j minus 1. Similarly, the j minus 1 will be having j minus 2. This is for the wavelet function. And for the scaling function also, the v of j will be divided as v of j minus 1 and w of j minus 1. In turn, every v will be having a v component and the w, that is the scaling function and the wavelet function. The root node, it will be assigned the highest scale approximation coefficient, which are the samples of the functions itself. The leaves will be inheriting the transforms approximation and the detail coefficient outputs. The intermediate node, that is w of phi j minus 1 n, is a filter bank approximation that is filtered to become two leaf nodes. That is, it will become w of phi j minus 2 and w of psi j minus 2. So the coefficients of each of the node are the weights of a linear expansion, and it will produce a band limited piece of the root node f of n. Because any such piece is an element of a known scaling or a wavelet subspace, we can replace the generating coefficients by the corresponding subspace. The result is the subspace analysis tree as shown in the figure B. Although the variable w is used to denote both coefficients and subspaces, the two quantities are distinguishable by the format of their subscripts. These things are further clear in the next picture what we are going to see, where we will be having a 3-scale fast wavelet transform analysis bank, analysis tree, and the corresponding frequency spectrum. So unlike the previous one, the block diagram here, it is labeled to resemble the analysis tree in the B as well as the spectrum in C. So while the output of the upper left filter and subsampler is to be accurate, but the w of phi j minus 1 of n, it has been labeled w of j minus 1, the subspace of the functions that is generated by the w of psi j minus 1 n transform coefficient. This subspace, it is going to correspond to the upper right leaf of the tree as well as the rightmost segment of the corresponding frequency spectrum. This picture over here, we are having a 3-scale fast wavelet transform filter bank, that is the block diagram has been given over here. The analysis trees, they will be providing a very compact term and informative way of representing the multi-scale wavelet transform. They are very simple to draw and they take up very less space than their corresponding filters and the subsampler based block diagrams. This is the decomposition of a space tree. How this scalar function, it is going to be reduced to the scalar and the wavelet function. So it is in terms of a tree where we will be having 2 divisions for every node. The figure C over here, it shows how we will be having the spectrum splitting characteristics. Like what was seen in the previous case, here we can see the v of j minus 2, it is consisting of v of j minus 3 and w of j minus 3. Whereas v of j minus 2 will be part of v of j minus 1. Similarly, the v of j is a bigger set which is consisting of v of j minus 1 and w of j minus 1. The analysis trees, they detect the valid decompositions very easily. The 3-scale analysis tree, that is in the figure B, it makes possible the following 3 expansion options. So V of j will be equal to V of j minus 1, and it is a combination of another set W of j minus 1. Whereas we can expand the V of j minus 1 as V of j minus 2 and W of j minus 2. And this can be continuing. So they correspond to the 1, 2 and 3 scale fast wavelet transform decompositions, and they can be obtained very easily by letting the j naught to be equal to j minus p, where the p is equal to 1, 2 or 3. So in general, the p scale fast wavelet transform analysis tree, it will be supporting p unique decompositions. The analysis trees are efficient mechanisms for representing the wavelet packets. The wavelet packets are also called as the conventional wavelet transforms, in which the details are filtered iteratively. So the 3-scale FWT analysis tree shown in the figure B, it becomes the 3-scale wavelet packet tree of the figure 7.31. The additional subscripting that is introduced, that is the wavelet packet tree. The first subscript of a double subscripted node identifies the scale of the fast wavelet transform parent node from which it is coming. The second, that is a variable length string of A's and D's, it is encoding the path from the parent to the node. An A will designate the approximation filtering, while a D will indicate the detail filtering. The subspace W of j minus 1 dA, it is obtained by filtering the scale j minus 1 fast wavelet transform coefficients through an additional detail filter, which will be followed by an approximation filter. The figures A and B are the filter bank and the spectrum splitting characteristics of the analysis tree of the figure 7.31. The truly naturally ordered outputs of the filter bank of the A have been recorded based on the frequency content in B. The 3-scale packet tree in the figure 7.31, it is almost tripling the number of decompositions and are available from the 3-scale FWT tree. So the normal FWT, when we are going to split and filter and downsample, the low pass bands will be alone. So this is creating a fixed logarithmic relationship between the bandwidth of the scaling and the wavelet spaces, which are used in the representation of the function. So while the 3-scale FWT analysis tree of the figure A, it offers 3 possible decompositions defined by the equations 7.6.1 to 7.6.3. That is in terms of V of j minus 1, V of j minus 1 in terms of V of j minus 2, V of j minus 2 in terms of V of j minus 3. The wavelet packet tree, it is supporting 26 different compositions. So the Vj, it can be expanded like what is shown over here. This picture illustrates the filter bank. This picture illustrates the spectrum splitting characteristics of a 3-scale full wavelet packet analysis tree. So we can see here the higher function V of j can be expressed as V of j minus 1. The V of j minus 1 can be expressed as V of j minus 2. V of j minus 2, it is consisting of V of j minus 3. So that is why this is called as a 3-scale full wavelet packet analysis tree. The picture here, it is illustrating the combination of the splitting characteristics of 3-scale full wavelet packet analysis tree. So that is the V of j, it is a combination of V of j minus 3 W of j minus 3, W of j minus 2 and W of j minus 1 with respect to the path from the parent node to the present node. So this can also be expressed as V of j minus 1, W of j minus 1, W of j minus 1 with respect to the node and the parent node and the parent node and the parent node. So this spectrum, it is depicted over here, and we can see the difference between the last spectrum and the full packet spectrum of this particular B. This is the spectrum of the decomposition of the V of j. This V of j, it can be written in terms of V of j minus 1, W of j minus 1, W of j minus 1 with respect to the parent to the present node. The 3-scale fast wavelet transform spectrum is shown in the figure C. So in general, the p-scale one-dimensional wavelet packet transforms, they are going to support the d of p plus 1 will be equal to d of p square plus 1. That is, they are going to support the unique decompositions where the d of 1 will be equal to 1. So with such large number of valid expansions, the packet-based transforms, they are going to provide improved control over partitioning the spectrum of the decomposed function. The cost of this control, it is increasing in computational complexity. Consider the 4-band analysis bank as in the figure previously what we have seen. So this, it is going to split the approximation of W of phi of j plus 1 m comma n into the outputs of W of phi j m n and the horizontal, vertical and the diagonal. So like in the one-dimensional case, it can be iterated for producing p-scale transforms for the scales from j minus 1 to j minus p with the value of W of psi, it is equal to f of mn. The spectrum, it is resulting from the first iteration as shown in the figure A. So it is dividing the frequency plane into 4 equal areas. The low frequency quarter band in the center of the plane, it is coinciding with the transform coefficients of W of phi and the scaling space V of j minus 1. To accommodate the two-dimensional nature of the input, we will have three-dimensional nature wavelet subspaces. So they are denoted by the horizontal, vertical and the diagonal, and they are going to corresponding to the coefficients W of psi h, W of psi v and W of psi d. This figure B, it is showing the resulting 4-band single space quaternary fast wavelet transform analysis tree. The subscripts that link the wavelet subspace designations to the transform coefficient counterparts. This picture, it is giving the first decomposition of the two-dimensional fast wavelet transform. So here we have the spectrum and then the subspace analysis tree. So the spectrum is the division on the horizontal direction, on the vertical direction. We can see over here. On the diagonal also, the wavelets what are there, the functions what are there, it is present in the entire spectrum here. So it is divided into multiple smaller subsections. The same thing, it is also shown how it can be drawn by using a subspace analysis tree. That means the V of j, it can be expressed as V of j minus 1 and the horizontal, vertical and the diagonal wavelet functions. The next figure, it shows a portion of the 3-scale two-dimensional wavelet packing analysis tree. So like the one-dimensional analysis tree, the first subscript of every node is a descendant of the conventional fast wavelet transform, that is the scaling of the parent detail node. The second subscript, that is a variable length string of the A's, H's and V's and the D's, they are going to encode the path from the parent to the current node under consideration. The node which is labeled W of h, for example, it is obtained by the row and column filtering. This is a 3-scale full wavelet packet decomposition tree. So we have only some part of the tree. So we can see here it can be expanded so that it will be getting many more subtrees. The horizontal function W of h, it is obtained by the row column filtering, the scale j-1 fast wavelet transform horizontal detail coefficients through an additional detail or an approximation filter followed by a detailed filter, that is W of h. A p-scale 2-dimensional wavelet packet, this tree is going to support d of p plus 1, which is equal to d of p to the power of 4 plus 1, because we will be having one root node and then smaller subfunctions, that is 4. So this is a unique expansion where if I am having only one node, then d of 1 will be equal to 1. The 3-scale tree of this figure 7.35, it offers 83,522 possible decompositions. So how we are going to select, that is left to the person who is going to look at this wavelet transform. After the wavelet transform, the next topic what we are going to look at is the image compression. So image compression means it is a technique where we are going to reduce the amount of data what is required for representing an image. So this is very helpful when we go for storing an image or transferring an image. Many number of images, they are compressed and decompressed daily, and the number is very staggering. So this compressing and decompressing, they are invisible to the user. So but it is of very much help to a person who is making use of data in various forms, like some movies or web data or the camera information. In all these places, this image compression finds utility. The data compression, it is used for reducing the amount of data what is required for storing a given amount of information. So here the data and the information, they are not the same. Data are the means by which the information is conveyed. Various amounts of data, it can be used to represent the same amount of information. That means the same information can be conveyed by different amounts of data. The representations that are going to contain irrelevant or repeated information. That means if you have some redundant information or irrelevant which is not required, we call that as the redundant data. So let us consider B and B dash. It is going to denote the number of bits in two representation of the same information. So the relative data dependency R, it can be calculated with B number of bits, where the R is equal to 1 minus 1 by C, where C is the compression ratio. This compression ratio C, it can be expressed in terms of the B and the B dash, that is, which is denoting the number of bits in two representation of the same information. So the compression ratio C, it is equal to B by B dash. R is equal to 1 minus 1 by C means the relative data redundancy, that is the capital R, it depends upon the compression ratio. And the compression ratio, it depends on B and B dash, where this B and B dash, they are denoting the number of bits in two representations. The information will be same, but the representation is in terms of B number of bits and B dash number of bits. So the compression ratio, it is given by B by B dash. So for example, if C is equal to 10, the larger representation, that means the numerator, it will be having 10 bits of data for every 1 bit of data in the smaller representation. When we have a compact image representation, the formats are many. Two-dimensional intensity arrays, they will be suffering from three principal types of data redundancies. So we will see these redundancies. The first one is called as the coding redundancy. A code is a set of symbols, it can be letters, numbers, bits, which are used for representing a information, or it can be a set of events. So each piece of information or the event which is assigned here, it is a sequence of code symbols or the code word. The number of symbols in each code word is called as the length. The 8-bit codes that are used to represent the intensities in the two-dimensional intensity arrays, they will contain more bits than are required to represent the intensities. That means it is giving rise to a redundancy in the code. That means we have the code which is more than required here. Next, the spatial and the temporal redundancy. Because the pixels of two-dimensional intensity arrays, they will be correlated spatially. That means in an array it will be having neighbors, so it will be arranged in the rows and columns. The information is unnecessarily replicated in the representation of the correlated pixels. So whatever is there in one pixel, even in the neighbors it can be repeated. So if I am having a video sequence, the temporally correlated pixels, they are also called as the duplicate information. So this is another type of redundancy. Then we will also have the irrelevant information. A two-dimensional intensity arrays, they are going to contain the information which is ignored by the human visual system. That means because of some neglect or some problem in the eye, when we are going to not consider some particular information, that becomes a problem. So actually that is part of the image, but we are not going to see that part of the image. So it is redundant in the case that it will be not used. Coding redundancy. Previously we have seen some techniques which were used for the image enhancement, like the histogram processing, where the intensity values of the image are the random quantities. Here also we are going to use a similar function to get the optimal information coding. Suppose I am having a discrete random variable r of k, which is in the interval 0 to l minus 1, and it is used to represent the intensities of a m cross n image. And this r of k, it is the probability of PR of Rk. So we can see that the PR of Rk can be written as Nk by m into n, where k is varying from 0 to l minus 1, where l is the number of intensity data values and nk is the number of times the kth intensity is appearing in the image. If the number of bits what is used to represent each value of Rk, it is equal to L of Rk. That means the number of bits what is required. Then the average number of bits which is required, it is given by L average. The L average, it is equal to the summation of k equals 0 to L minus 1, L of Rk, PR of Rk. That means the average length of the code words assigned to the various intensity values, it can be got by summing the products of the number of bits which are used to represent each intensity and the probability that the intensity will be occurring. The total number of bits what is required to represent the image which is m cross n, now it will be equal to mn as well as the L average. If the intensities are represented using a natural m-bit fixed length code, so then the right hand side of this equation, so what we have the L of Rk and PR of Rk, that will be now reduced to only m number of bits. That is L average will be equal to m, where m is substituted for L of Rk. The constant m, it can be taken outside the summation, and only the sum of the PR of Rk, where the k will be varying from 0 to L minus 1, it becomes equal to 1. The next is the spatial and the temporal redundancy. Consider one collection of constant intensity lines in a collection of the image. So for this, the two-dimensional intensity array will be having all 256 intensities which are equally probable. That means you can have all the intensities at equal proportions, equally probable. You can have the colors. So the histogram for this particular image, it will be uniform. All the colors will be having equal intensities. Because the intensity of each line, it was selected randomly, its pixels are independent of one another in the vertical direction. Because the pixels along each line are identical, they are maximally correlated in the horizontal direction. So from the first observation, we can see that the image, what is given in the 8.1b, it is represented as a conventional 8-bit intensity array. It cannot be compressed by variable length coding. So we should have to make use of other type of compression also. Unlike what we had in the figure A, whose histogram it was not uniform, a fixed length 8-bit code, it will be minimized. So the 2 and 3 observations, they are going to reveal a very important spatial redundancy that also can be eliminated, for example, by making use of the image in the figure B as a sequence of run length pairs, where each run length pair, it is specifying the start of a new intensity and the number of consecutive pixels that have that intensity values. So in the picture A, we can see the coding redundancy. That means we have more number of bits than required for representing the intensities in this image. And the second one is the spatial and the temporal redundancy, in which we will be having the pixels which are unnecessarily replicated in the representation of the correlated pixels. And in the C, we are having the information which can be ignored by the human visual system, or because of some errors or from some extra information can be not seen at all. So this is also one type of redundancy. So most of the visual contribution is redundant in the sense that from the neighbors we can get to know much of the information about the center pixel. So to reduce the redundancy associated with the spatial and the temporally correlated pixels, a two-dimensional intensity array, it should be transformed into a more efficient but a non-visual representation, because a visual representation can give rise to errors. That means the run lengths or the difference between adjacent pixels, it can be made use of as information instead of the visual information. The transformations, when we are going to convert from the visual to non-visual, that is called as mapping. So this mapping, it will be reversible. That means you can convert from non-visual to visual and visual to non-visual. So the pixels here of the original array, it should be reconstructed without any errors from the transformed data set. So otherwise the mapping becomes irreversible. That means we cannot get back the original image. This is the intensity histogram of the image of 8.1b. That means where we had the redundancy, that is the spatial and the temporal redundancy, where equal values was there, almost equal values. So we can see here the histogram will also be having uniform intensities for all type of colors. So nk is the number of pixels with the kth value, and this PR of Rk, it is going to give us the probability of the Rk. So we have 256 levels here, and the 256 levels, all of them are equal here, that is 1 by 256. So the irrelevant information. So one simplest way to compress a set of data, it is to remove the data which is not at all related, that is the superfluous data from the information image or the set. So if you consider with respect to the digital image compression, the information that is ignored by the human visual system or is extra to the intended use of the image, they are the pixels here what we are concentrating on. That means what we are talking about, that is the superfluous data from the image. So the computer generated image that is in the figure C, because it is a homogeneous field of gray color. So for this image we will see now how the irrelevant information can be removed. So the intermediate uniform gray color what we are having, it can be represented by the average intensity, that is one single 8-bit value. So the original image what we had, that is 256 pixels by 256 pixels and into 8 bits per pixel what we had. Now it is reduced to a single byte, and the resulting compression, it will be equal to 256 into 256 into 8 divided by 8, which turns out to be 65,536 for 1. So the original bit image, it should be created to get back the analysis, but there will be no decrease in the reconstructed image quality. That's it for today, and we are going to continue on the image compression in the next class. Thank you very much.